Hello, good day. I'm glad to see you're back in the garden today, and we're still doing those candles. We're piling right through. The good things about doing the 9 candles the way I do it is you always know what day you're on, because all you got to do is count the candles. So first we're going to light the candles, and we're going to discuss that the intention of my doing this ceremony is to bring the intention forth to have the garden grow and prosper with everyone else's thoughts and everyone else's ideas and what they care to bring to the garden and learn about and have grow. And for us to start this towards a prosperous new year, I started these candles so that we bridged the the winter solstice and the grand conjunction happened to be that same day. So these candles are bridging us from the darkest days to the coming back of the light. So our 6 that we've burnt before, and this is our 7th candle. And today I'm going to talk about something that's a little bit different. I'm going to talk about a book that I used years ago that helped me settle me and made me feel calm and peaceful in a time of great stress. And I think there are a lot of people right now who are feeling under a lot of stress and pressure. I think some people feel think changes are coming, but it's often like, why can you watch someone kind of go through the changes and the stresses and the pressure and accept it and do it very, very well, and then the person right next to him just loses it. They just can't hold it together. So when I was thinking about an incident like that in my life, I used to work for an airline, and I really hate airports. I mean, I didn't work at the airport, but I worked for an airline, and they used to just stick us on planes and fly us around. And I got stuck in some very odd places like St. Louis Airport at midnight. Not fun things to do. So after I left the airline, I really didn't like to fly much. But my father's 80th birthday was being celebrated in Chicago area. So I flew up, and it was Mother's Day weekend because his birthday's in May. And I went up and I flew in, but I promised my son that I'd be back by the end of Mother's Day to spend time with him. So he had Daddy's big birthday party and saw these people, saw my siblings, and then I got up really early on Sunday morning to fly back from Midway to DFW. And I got to the airport, and those airport things had happened. There'd been an electrical problem in one of the planes that was similar to the one I was flying, so they were all grounded, all the airplanes, and those were all the ones that were going to be flying out of Midway to Dallas. That would be appropriate for me to catch a second flight, and it was a Sunday, so I settled down in the airport and said, how am I going to not go crazy? Well, one of the things I had done is I had gotten a little book called The Benedictine Way. And there's 2 of them, and I've read both of them, and I don't remember exactly which one I had in my wallet that day, but I'll put the names below. But one was by a man named John McQuiston. I think that's not the book I had that day because his book, I think, was published a little past the time this incident happened in the 90s. But I think it was The Benedictine Way by Wulston Mork. That's a good name. Anyway, and in that book, it outlines just sort of the path, the life, the discipline, the seeking understanding of the outside world by seeking inner peace. And so I'm just sitting there and I decide, well, I guess this is what I'm supposed to do. So I start going through reading the rules and the disciplines and how to just go inside yourself and deal with your own inner resources, even when everybody else is going crazy around you. And trust me, there were people in that airport going crazy. There was a businessman ahead of me who was screaming at the ticketing agent like the poor guy could go out and rewire the plane. And the guy you just, and the guy said, that's all I can do, sir. That's the fastest way we can get it. That's the best we can do for you. And the guy went storming off, and I came up and I was talking to him, and I said, I used to work at airlines, and I would never, ever, ever have done the job you're doing on these ticketing gates. I said, I don't know how you put up with that kind of abuse. And he looked up and very nicely said, oh, his ticket's for Cleveland. His luggage is going to Lima, Peru. Well, okay. So that's how that guy was finding inner peace. But anyway, I digress. I went and sat down, and I just decided I'm just going to see, instead of worrying about where I think I should be and living in anticipation, living in the future, I am going to sit here and see what happens. Well, among other things, I met a group of people who'd been at a convention of historical mystery writers, which is another one of my favorite things to read. And they had met all these authors whose books I'd read, and they were talking to me about the things they'd heard about how they developed their materials and all that stuff. And I thought that was great fun. Then there was a whole group of Buddhist monks, from little bitty guys to the big tall guys. And they were all in their orange robes and everything. I don't know where they were going, but it was very funny because the lounge they were in, the seating area, everybody was very calm. Everything was very, we're going to get there eventually. Okay. Then you go down to the next lounge, and there'd be people just telling everyone every missed flight story, every lost baggage. And that guy's going to have one now for Lima, Peru, but every lost baggage story they'd ever had. And so I just decided, I enjoyed observing how it really was the state of the people. It wasn't just, the situation was aggravating, but you didn't have to get all your face up all in that. And that's one of the things that I think I like to try to do when I work with people on readings, or when I work with them on grids or working with crystals, is how can you use this to help you be and define yourself more fully? And how can you move forward from those situations? Because a lot of people don't come to you for readings when their world's going really great. Let me tell you that in the first place. A lot of times they're like, I'm really confused. I don't know what to do. Where do we go from here? So as you all know, I have my beloved inner child cards. And so today, before I spoke about this, I said, am I really going to read about the monks and the monasteries? And so what I pulled was Rapunzel. And Rapunzel is, in this deck, is card 16. And if you know anything about that, that's the Tower card. And really the images on the Tower card kind of go with the Rapunzel story. If you know that story, she's this young woman's father goes across a wall and picks greenery out of an enchantress's garden. She gets pissed. She said, okay, you can have your life, but you have to give me your daughter. This is one of those fairy tales that if you're a little girl kind of freaks you out, because he says, fine. And so, because he doesn't want to lose his wife. So he gives her the daughter. So the woman keeps the daughter in a tower. She's sent over there when she's 12. She has a long blonde braid. That's where Rapunzel, let down your hair comes from. And she was sealed in this tower, so no one could get there but the enchantress, because she knew the thing. Well, a young prince wandering through the woods sees how to get up to the tower, and he waits till the enchantress is gone, and he tells her to send down her hair. And Rapunzel puts down her braid, and the prince climbs up. And anyway, Rapunzel kind of has a tower moment there with the prince. And then the enchantress figures out he's been in there. She casts him out of the tower. He's blinded. He's wandering around the woods blind, and the enchantress has cut off all of Rapunzel's hair and thrown her out into the woods too. Eventually, Rapunzel and the prince meet up. And when Rapunzel cries tears for him, her tears give him back his sight. And they supposedly live happily ever after, although some of those things that's in fairy tales I'm not so sure about. But anyway, when this card appears in your reading, be prepared for transformative experiences. Only certainly now the change and the metamorphosis will come in unexpected and shocking events. Purge your ego of old desires, fears, and grudges. A sudden mental breakthrough can help you release you from your personality attachments and limitations, just as Rapunzel's beautiful braid was chopped off by the enchantress in order to banish her from the place that held her too tightly, so she could use her own active will. So this is really about ego consciousness being refined and changed, which is kind of what they talk about in the Benedictine way. I don't know if you're going to want to read that book, but I do want to think about situations where your own attitude is really the transforming part of going through it without fear. And I mean, some fear you got to have, but not everything scares me, so I don't try anything, that kind of stuff. And it's really kind of fun to look back on how your own attitudes and how you carry yourself and the energy you put out in the world, how you can change. And I think that's really important that we all remember we are coming to this garden to change and to grow and to be a part of a larger community of people who are seeking growth, change, and an understanding. And the most difficult thing in the whole world to understand is ourselves, who we are. And so I hope you'll come back to the garden and grow some more. And I'll be back tomorrow with candle 8. And I'm going to blow the candles out now because people do worry about that. Not bad for an old lady who's an asthmatic. Anyway, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Remember, oh yeah, this part I forget. I need you to subscribe. I'm doing really well with subscribers, but I can always use more. And I can, and in below it tells you how you can get in touch with me for a reading, for a grid, or if you can't afford like the whole big giant grid, I create crystal compasses, which are 3 stones that are programmed to help you with whatever we decide whatever you want to do, even if it's just internal growth. I think that's all for right now. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you for visiting my garden and have a good day.